listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shemaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shemaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today, man, we have a true honor having an amazing guest for another show. Today, we're talking to Crystal O'Connor. She's an amazing person. You can go visit her awesome website, richfitandhappy.com. Today's subject is very simple, but it's going to be very effective. It's the big lie, how rich and fit can lead to happy after all. First and foremost, we're going to get more of a background story on Crystal. I want to welcome you first to the show. Say, how you doing?
Hello, how are you? I'm great.
I appreciate you being on. I know you're busy doing great things. So for our audience, kind of talk a little bit about yourself. We kind of talked a little bit in the green room about you were once the creator of the Moxie Entrepreneur and Moxie Media Solutions. Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Okay. So when I graduated high school, I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. I had no real plans, but I noticed all of my friends were going off to college and I didn't really have a plan. Academics weren't my thing, or at least I didn't feel like at the time that they were, because as I sat in class, I daydreamed a lot. And so I found myself working at a life insurance company in Des Moines, Iowa, when I was 20 years old. And as much as I had friends looking up to me and saying, how did you get that job? And you have all these great benefits and you wear suits to work and you even have a parking pass, all of these things. I remember thinking, I am bored out of my mind at this job. And I worked that job for 2 years, learned a lot about life insurance, but I kept thinking, what in the world am I going to do? Because again, I can't say I'm so bored. And I would catch myself doing the daydreaming thing like I did in school. And so I decided that I was going to be a teacher. So I did go to college. I have a degree in education, but about the time that I graduated, about the time I graduated and started teaching, we decided to adopt. So I got married, by the way, in between then. And decided to adopt a baby. By the way, she's going to have a baby this week. So she's all grown now. But she, as soon as we got her home, I found out that I had been pregnant and I just didn't know it. So my son and daughter are just 8 months apart. And that is when I decided or realized that I had chosen the wrong career, because I wasn't about to leave my babies to go be with other kids, only to give my entire salary to a daycare center. So I had to really sit there and go, wow, nobody prepared me for this and prepared me for why is it that I just went to school and spent how much on a degree and they don't pay me enough to pay a daycare and be with my kids. It just didn't add up or make sense. So I did the math and I realized that I needed to get a job that paid enough, and that was in sales. So I ended up working for a TV station, and that TV station had me working with small business owners, and I wrote commercials, I sold commercials. And the reason I tell this story is because I think a lot of people go through this and realize that school didn't prepare us for any of this. You never once heard in school, hey, if you major in education and you are a teacher, you won't have enough to pay your bills and you'll have to be doing Uber in the evenings and basically working 24/7. Nobody told me that. And nobody talks about lifestyle and how important that is, because you can be really stressed out when you're not making enough money to pay your bills and give your kids the kind of lifestyle they deserve. So as I was working with small business owners and in the TV advertising world, I learned a lot about the small business struggles, and I learned a lot about media. And that is about the time that I noticed YouTube and I noticed video, and I was like, wait a minute. So you could do a video for free. And here we are charging free eyeballs, hundreds, thousands of eyeballs. And here we are charging small businesses thousands of dollars for one single 30-second commercial. And we can't even prove that there is a certain amount of eyeballs seeing their commercial. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to leave. I ended up going to, right before this decision was made, I went to a Robert Kiyosaki event. It was on a weekend. And I couldn't afford it, but I made myself afford it because of one quote that I heard that same week. And the quote was by some older gentleman. Can't think of his name right now. It doesn't matter, because the quote changed my life. And the quote was, you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And the 5 people I spent the most time with, obviously my kids, but adult wise, were the people at my job at the TV station. And I'm just going to tell you that I didn't necessarily want to end up like them. So then I heard another quote that said, only want or desire respect from people that you respect. And so I started really contemplating that and thinking about that quote. And it obviously impressed upon me something that ignited a search. And it didn't take long. Within just days, I heard on the radio that Robert Kiyosaki was having this event in town. I went, I paid like $500 that I did not have. And it changed everything for me that weekend. So I ended up signing up. During that event, I found a way to pay for a year's worth of coaching through his program. And I learned about real estate. I ended up getting my real estate license. I flipped a couple of properties. It was, by the way, very stressful. I got myself into trouble, which led me to have to get an attorney to get me out of it, which, again, all of these little mistakes added up to me getting a little bit closer to what I wanted. And I do own real estate, by the way, but it wasn't where I wanted to spend all of my time. And what I will say that I learned the most of or from that weekend, watching that teacher at the Kiyosaki event, was I watched this gal at the front of the room and a couple of other speakers sell a $22,000 package to, I think there were like 200 people there. And she sold $22,000 to, I think, 12 people. And I thought to myself, I want that. I want what she just did. And I'm a teacher. I know this is my gig. So I just wanted to teach something. And that is what I went and did. So I started Moxie Entrepreneur. And it was quite the process. I had 2 people kind of like, can I just say, screw me over with websites. And I just kept going. I had one guy charge me, I think it was $2,000 for a website. And then he vanished and took my domain name with him. Wow. And so all of these things, just instead of letting it, get to me, even though, yes, they were frustrating, I kept going. And it's interesting how every time I would have an obstacle or something like that would happen, it would lead me, almost like pivot me or redirect me to exactly what I wanted. So I mentioned that story to somebody, and she's like, oh, you need to talk to so-and-so. She does WordPress websites. And I ended up using that gal. Her and I paired up, and so she was my go-to gal to put other websites together, which helped me start my agency, but the agency side, so the done for you side. But so what I did was I started a $6,000 program online, and I did 6 figures in the first 9 months. So I surpassed my income at the TV station by about $25,000 in 9 months. And it changed everything, and I never looked back. And I realized I just put myself into the category of being unemployable, which is a whole nother scary thought, but it's kind of true. But that's kind of what I wanted all along. And so I've acquired, that was in 2008, 2009. 2009 is when I started, because I did, by the way, sell commercial real estate in 2008. And that is when the real estate debacle was occurring, and it was a nightmare. I did end up selling 2 buildings in that time, but I wanted out. And I wanted out because I saw what was happening online, and you've got to take advantage. So this is what I'm going to tell your audience right now. When you see a wave, ride that wave. And for me in 08, 09, it was that, like the opportunity. And I knew the value in these videos because video killed the radio star. And now I feel like things have changed so drastically again because AI is going to just change everything. And so if there are any listeners out there that don't already know this, hear me out. AI is going to help you in ways that I did not have in 08 and 09 with regard to copywriting. I mean, there were nights I stayed up all night chugging coffee, trying to figure out how to write copywriting. And I would buy little courses here and there, but I was teaching myself how to write, and I was writing for customers, and I was coaching one-on-one, and then farming out some of the work. And it was a lot of work, tedious work. But I feel like what's happening now, even though it's crowded, we were just given a gift, even though I know AI is going to change and it's so disruptive to so many different industries. It doesn't matter. Use it. Think of the positive. Think about how can I use this to my advantage to create financial wealth for my family. At least start making, tell yourself, I'm going to make an extra $5,000 a month. I'm going to make an extra $10,000 a month. And then as you learn AI, teach AI. I mean, use it to write your copy, use it to put together programs, use it for your marketing. There's so many different ways you can use it. But more than anything, as you're using it and learning it, you can actually charge companies because they want writers, they want copy, and this is your opportunity to do that for them. And I have just totally stole the mic.
Nah, you're good. You're good. Listen, on Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, and Crystal O'Connor. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned AI because, I mean, I'm using AI myself.
What are you using it for? Can I ask?
For me, it's like music and all that stuff. So you can use AI to help you structure a blog post. Mm-hmm. And what I like is on YouTube, there's some people that will say, like, just, spit it out there on AI and let him, chat?
GPT.
Yeah, let that just do the work or whatever. But then there's like a more personal approach where it's like you let it do pieces. You do little pieces of sections for your blog post. So say your topic is podcast marketing to encourage more downloads and exposure. Well, instead of telling, chat to do its thing, you do it in sections. Almost like author.
Like you're prompting it a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
So that at the end of it, it's much more customized.
Exactly. I like it for just really getting brainstorming, like getting more clarity on like how I can see something from a different angle. Because I think the whole AI thing is only as good as you build it to be. I have an idea for, this blog post, right, on this subject, but only write one paragraph. And then from there, I'll build from that paragraph into other paragraphs. Mm-hmm. And then I'll say like, okay, expand on this point, So if it was like, if you gave examples or a list of different websites you can visit to help submit podcasts for directories or whatever, well, then now you can talk about those little points within that paragraph. So that's more effective than just saying, hey, type about this subject and then you just copy and paste. I think it's more to that. It's like a beginner stage and then it's more deeper level because there's no rules. Like there's no one who came out from university saying, hey, this is how you're supposed to use AI. I mean, it's almost like YouTube, to your point, or to, video creation, to your point. Once upon a time, it was new. But now the people who really benefit from it are the ones who really dive deeper than the surface level.
Mm-hmm. Like having it. So these prompts that you refer to, it's almost like a chef that has to learn the ingredients and learn all the many different little tiny details that give you that end result. And so I just pulled up, as we were talking here, I just pulled up a persona for this program, Rich, Fit, and Happy, that I have. And you can tell it to act as a brand strategist or a marketing expert. And then you can go even further and ask it to be, you, and have the personality of you, and also to be helpful, direct, and informative and resourceful. And then when it tells you, you can say, okay, now I want you to be more blunt, or I want you to have more of a personality, maybe a sassy personality. And it just gets really interesting, because when you see the difference between what they give you generically, and then when you tell them to give you some sass, big difference, huge difference. I've gotten prompts with the word kick-ass in it, when I ask for something sassy. And yeah, it's amazing. It's actually kind of fun. Speaking of music, you mentioned you like music. I had them write a rap song for my son the other day. It was hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah. Have you done that yet?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of just see what it can do, because I was just randomly looking at blogs for ideas how to use AI and stuff. One thing that was very interesting is you can copy and paste your website, and you can ask a basic question. What does this website, any suggestions you made for a viewer perspective? My mind was blown. My mind was literally blown, because I used my personal website, and it gave me so much ideas. And that's the cool thing about it. You take those ideas, and then you can write another prompt that can lead to something else that's more effective. So what I did was I had it actually rewrite my copy on my pages. And wow, night and day compared to what I had before. Not because it was bad, it's just that my style is kind of right to the point. Chat. Maybe
just a little bit more polished or engaging.
Yeah. So it was simple things help me write a copy that's appealing to, this type of audience, whatever. And it actually does it. And does it as you are tweaking it. Because the other thing you can do is regenerate or put a thumbs down or thumbs up, and you can help tweak it to kind of, do what is you want it to do. As far as writing HTML and CSS, I put my website in and just my URL, and I asked for any suggestions for, coding. Mind blown. It actually did something. I was like, whoa, this is interesting. So it allowed me to kind of tweak my current template on my website. And I ingested some of the coding that it helped me build. And it basically, I changed the layout of my website and the font, all that stuff, thanks to AI. So I'm like, this is crazy. If you know what you're doing, imagine you had a department full of individuals on your team that helped you build something.
That were really good with words and the thing is that you can get really good at, you just have to practice, just like with anything. But you don't have to do all the work. See, that's what's great. But it also kind of gives you ideas, ignites ideas. And it's almost
like your personal assistant.
Yes, it is. It's like a genius assistant. Yeah.
That can do a spell check.
Oh my God. Yeah. That is, I know I'm looking into the future, and coming from education, I'm thinking of all the kids that really, I don't know what the heck is going to happen. Can you imagine being a teacher now and having to have special software because you don't know if it's really coming from the kid or ChatGPT, and are they really learning this? And I don't know what this is going to do over time, because, our brains, I would think, and this is the dark side of it, I guess, or the really kind of not so bright side of it, it will weaken our brains.
I
right?
think so. If you depend on it too much, it's like a balance, if you will. Like you use it as a reference.
But we'll get so much. Sorry, but yes, use it as a reference, but we'll get so much more done. And that, like what you said, you just rewrote all the pages of your website within minutes.
I mean, people might have their doubts with the whole Bitcoin stuff. I mean, I kind of still do personally, but this whole Chat GPT is definitely going to be a great resource.
And it's not about being against it or for it. It's about get on the boat because it's going, right? Or you're going to miss it. Yeah.
Like you said earlier, riding the wave, you know, you got to eventually, sooner or later, make a choice, make a decision. Because, I mean, that's basically what it is. And to the topic, I know we went to some AI stuff, but I think that will be perfectly tied into what we're talking about with the topic I said earlier in the show, the big lie, how rich and fit can lead to happy after all. For you, once upon a time, you chose to be happy. Touch on that for the audience, because it wasn't like you just woke up one day and say, I'm gonna just do my business. You know, it was a process for you. So kind of touch on how you took those steps to pursue your happiness with your brand.
I was driven by what doesn't bore me? First of all, I'm a creator, so my brain is always creating. And that was the problem all along when I sat in school and I was bored and I couldn't pay attention. You can call it ADD, you can call it whatever. It was that I just had a creative mind. I wanted to be creating and doing something else. And so I need to be doing that. Now, how does a person figure out how to do that, but live in this planet where money is, vital and important. And without it, you're not safe. You're not healthy, and you won't live long. That's the truth. So, I grew up just like you probably have heard it a million times as well. We hear money isn't everything. Money won't make you happy. Well, guess what? It makes happy people happier. Yes, it does. And, and I will say this, I know that, and I don't share this too much, but I did share it in my book in 2015. And that is that I lived in my car when I was 18 for a couple of months. It was very unpleasant and it was very scary for me. And I felt very alone. And I always have that. It made me strong too, because I had to become very resourceful to get myself out of that situation. And let me just tell you, a roof over my head made me a lot happier than living in my car. It just did. So when you can make decisions and choices based on what you actually want, that's true happiness, in my opinion. And for somebody that has acquired wealth and says that they're not happy, well, they're choosing not to be happy for whatever reason, right? We make choices. And then so we were fed this line of money doesn't make you happy for so long. And I do not understand why anybody ever said that in the first place. Maybe because they didn't want children to think money is everything. Okay. But it is food and it is shelter. Like I said, it is safety and it is healthcare. Am I right? It's healthcare. Yeah. So, and it's the choice of the doctor that you want to go to. There's a lot of choices with wealth, a lot of choices, and you can choose who you hang out with. Really, you can, because then you have the option to leave. You have the option to live pretty much anywhere you want. So there is definitely a connection. And as much as, me calling rich and happy, using that in the same sentence, seems maybe to some people gross, whatever. Yeah. I know that I've had both in my life, and I choose money and happy instead of being in my car and unhappy, or in my car and happy. But the truth is that it is a journey. Yes, it is a journey, but we have all of these many different ways to increase our monthly income every month. We have all these many different options, because I'm a girl from the 80s, and meaning we didn't have all these options. We didn't have the options where you could just get online and, get a payment button or a Venmo button and send it to somebody and exchange money at the speed that we can now. So it seemed to me like a lot of options, or my options were super limited. And that never feels happy for someone that's creative.
You have to keep asking yourself, what can I do? What do I need to know? Or who should I be knowing so I can make these new prompts to really make those changes?
Yes. And again, a person could sit and learn from some of the brightest minds ever on YouTube. We didn't have that until 2009? When, I don't remember when YouTube actually came to the scene, but we didn't have that. So what you just said, even if a person could actually be at rock bottom and quickly excel, even though it's crowded right now. And it's a little bit, it's not just crowded, it's a little bit complicated. Or maybe complicated is not the word. It's not complicated. It's overwhelming because there's so many voices, and it could be easily felt that a person can't speak through that kind of noise or be heard through that kind of noise. And I'm here to tell you, you can. You just have to focus. You just have to focus and quit watching everybody else so much, unless, of course, they are inspiring you on YouTube, because I will do that. I do that in the morning because I started noticing what makes me, I'm sure you do this too. When you get to a certain level, you want to always be sharp and you want to always be optimizing your brain, right? With your habits. And so I'll ask myself, when do I feel the sharpest to get the most done and maximize, the 2 hours that I have in the morning or the 1 hour? And what I noticed is if I do certain things in the morning, the rest of the day goes bad. So what I'll do now is watch certain people on YouTube, and it just will pump me up to the point where I will just work probably 3 times harder or faster because of the inspiration. So it goes back to that quote that I said in the very beginning that inspired me. And that was, you become the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Well, now we have the opportunity to have those 5 people be people that are geniuses, most creative geniuses on YouTube. And that's fascinating, but it does actually, it can be that simple, but you just you've got to make sure that the time, we all have the same amount of time in a day. Make sure that time that you spend, that you're actually taking note, test, track, and tweak. How does this make me feel? Am I productive? What have I done today? Have I rubbed elbows with somebody that I should or shouldn't? And then either stop doing that thing, going brain dead, watching, some drama series that got you nowhere, or never mind.
Accuse us to have gossip.
Yeah, I actually was almost said something to my daughter. If she heard this, she'd be like, "Why are you throwing me under the bus?" I'm thinking about my daughters, and sometimes I'll catch them watching silly things, and I'm like, "Don't put that in your head." So, but it's really easy to get addictive because, our dopamine receptors, everything right now, technology-wise, is playing on dopamine on our receptors and trying to steal our time. So I'm just suggesting to your audience to make sure that you take notice of what you're putting in your brain, because yes, it absolutely will hypnotize you. Everything does that we listen to. So wouldn't you want it to hypnotize you to do the things with the end result that you want? Then be really hyper aware of how you feel and what's happening when you listen to certain things and certain people, whether it be a song. And by the way, maybe you can tell me, I'm dying to know, what is with music these days being kind of negative? Because I come from the 80s and I'm thinking all of the songs, if you listen to all the Elvis songs, they were all about love, and Prince and Michael Jackson, all of them, there was a lot of love going on in those songs. Now I listen to songs and I feel in fact, I sent one to my daughter and it was a little clip, and I had no idea that Elvis Presley's daughter was a singer at one point. You know, she just passed away, but she was a singer, and there was a clip of her singing, and she was literally using the word hate. And I'm thinking, what the heck? You know, like, I hate you or something like that. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, here's another example of how things have changed. And so I just think that we should all just like be really aware of what is going on or what is going into our minds, into our brains, because it's totally affecting us. And if you want to see what it's done to you, you can look at, you know, your productivity. Look at what you've done in the last week, in the last year. What have you done? Are you still in the same place? If you're still in the same place, you're probably watching the wrong things, listening to the wrong things, and vice versa.
Once you become more self-aware, then you can really make those choices and decisions that's going to help you get, you know, around the right people or be more accountable to yourself and not overthink. Right. Because a lack of self-discipline or self-awareness, you can't ever think straight. You can never get anything done because you're always finding a good excuse to not do it, or you just don't care. Right. I heard somebody say the other day that we only have 75 birthdays. We only have about 75 Christmases. So if you really break it down and you think about that, like, and if you were to break down the numbers of days that you have in a lifetime, number of hours, it's actually not a lot. And that might put it into perspective for you to kick it into high gear and actually start producing something. What if I was gone tomorrow? What will I regret not doing? Or what will I have so far, regret not doing in my life? I think that's a great approach, because until you ask those questions, I don't think you necessarily will, find that self-awareness to be motivated to actually pursue those things. You have to choose. And once you make that choice, you just got to work at the whole funny games that we all have to go through in life. And that is, you got to fail, but you got to keep going. I love the movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. Oh my God. Best story ever. I love that movie. Yeah. So that movie is so moving that I think people should watch it more often, just to raise their hopefulness, or the feeling that I was referring to earlier with regard to vibration. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I remember watching that movie. One thing I took away from that movie, I'll never forget when he was talking to his son, and he was experiencing all those emotions, raw emotions, feeling like that he wasn't, being successful for his son to look up to. You know what I'm saying? Like, when he got that motivation kicking in, it was because he had no choice if he wanted to be successful, if that makes sense. So he had to start, kind of like you alluded to earlier about sometimes life puts you in this position where it forces you to make a decision over the time that you lacked in making decisions. That's what happens sometimes. You get put in situations where you're forced to actually do the things that you neglected doing over time. And once you find that motivation, it clicks. Like, and then he, I'm sure thought, what if I hadn't have done those things? It almost feels, when you're doing it, delusional. Yep. How could somebody that doesn't even have enough money to buy his son a candy bar one day, thinks he's going to get a job to position himself to make, several $100,000 a year the very next year. Yeah. So, but he didn't let those thoughts creep in because he had no other choice. I love that. Dang, that's good, man. Yeah, all right, man. But that said, we're talking to our special guest today, Crystal O'Connor, and you go to her website. It is richfitandhappy.com. Man, I know we kind of burnt the time on this one, but I feel like it was worth it, and I hope the person listening to this will be inspired. That simply is a choice. That's it. That's what it is. You have a choice to be happy and to pursue whatever is going to make your life better. But you have to define that. No one can define that for you. You have to be able to look in the mirror and say, okay, it's me versus me. It's not me versus the person I'm jealous of. It's not me versus, whatever. It's me versus the person I see in the mirror. I had to beat that guy today, or I had to beat, that girl today. It's not anyone else that's going to be able to take your, speeches, your awards. It's going to be you that gets you there. So with that, man, I want to say thanks to our guest today, Crystal O'Connor. What's the best call to action that people can take to support what you're doing with your business?
You can follow me on Instagram, the Crystal O'Connor, and you can send me a little message. And if you listen to this podcast, I'd love to send you something. You can also get a program that I have, and I almost forgot to tell you this. You can go to rapidcashinfusion.com, and there's a program that you can get for free email-wise, and would love to hear your feedback on that after you do that little course, that free course. Once again,
I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Crystal O'Connor. Go visit her website. It is richfitandhappy.com. You also get the book that she released back in 2015, Unleash Your Moxie, A Girl's Guide to Becoming Fiercely Bold, Incredibly Happy, and Practically Superhuman. I want to say thanks again to Crystal for your time, for talking to us today.
Absolutely. I love being here. Thank you.